Good morrow to you all. You have fallen on bad times.
Brought to you by the Royal Holloway Shakespeare Society.
You join me, Theo Dudridge.
And me, Subhan Hay, as we bear some bardy truths.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bard Times. I'm Meadow Capon, and I'm taking over this week as we're joined by our new first year rep, Lynne Biles. Say hi, Lynne.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm grand, thank you. Yeah, everything's great over here. How are you, Meadow?
Oh, I'm very well. I'm very excited to host my first episode of Bard Times.
Wonderful.
So Lynne is our current first year rep for Shakespeare Society, and you also played Catherine in A Sly Taming, which was our last main term show. So obviously you've just been elected onto committee. My first question was going to be, how are you finding it, and do you have any exciting ideas for the future?
Yeah, so far it's been really great. I mean, our team is absolutely wonderful, and I'm just so excited to get involved with so many new opportunities. I mean, in terms of exciting ideas and plans, I'm very much looking forward to next term, where things can really start to kick off and start organising some more events and opportunities, especially opening out to first years. So yeah, everyone keep posted on our socials, and I'm sure you'll be hearing lots of news soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some really exciting plans already for term 2, including going to see Measure for Measure, basically our first event back, which is so exciting, to go see some live theatre together, which we haven't done not at all in my time, or maybe once in my whole time at Holloway. So yeah, for sure, stay tuned to our social media for those events coming up. So of course, earlier this term, you took part in our main term show, A Sly Taming, as one of the leads, Catherine. So what was this experience like, and do you have any particular highlights of the show process?
Oh gosh, I suppose with Taming, it was such an interesting experience because I really threw myself straight into the deep end in terms of starting university on a high.
Yeah.
It was an incredibly intense experience, but I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to work on A Sly Taming, because just working with so many amazingly talented and inspiring members of cast and crew, and Subhan at the helm as director created such a warm and friendly environment.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of highlights, I guess, I spoke quite a bit about rehearsal highlights in the first Sly Taming episode of Bard Times, so I suppose I'll sort of narrow it down to show memories. Even though we only had 3 shows, I mean, it was just wonderful seeing how supportive everyone was backstage. I mean, just seeing Donia, Kate, and especially Max, they're just the kindest and most inspiring people to be around. And I had certain moments where it was very uncertain, and so did they. And it was just so uplifting, especially coming off stage. The first time I completely did my end monologue without making a single mistake once was in our second show. And I just walked off stage, and everyone else in the cast was just standing there, and I was awestruck. I was like, I can't believe I've just done that. And everyone was like, you did it, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And we'd come from this really serious scene where we just all were completely in neutral, and we just all walked off stage, and then backstage we're all having this massive celebration, and we've just got 20 seconds before we have to come back on in neutral, and it was just very much oh my gosh, right, back into stage mode.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful. That sounds like so much fun. You must be so proud of yourself. I mean, Catherine's such a huge role to take on. There's so much in just that character, let alone the whole show. Yes, how did you find it just tackling that character just as an actor?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting because I've done Shakespeare's before, but never a lead. And one thing I was quite worried about was the size of the task at hand. And I mean, for Taming, we only had 5 weeks rehearsal period, which compared to the usual 8, that's quite daunting. But Subhan made it incredibly accessible. And just everyone was so supportive, and actually playing Catherine in a slight taming especially, which is Supan's own reimagining of the story, he kind of flips it from its original kind of comedic roots to almost tragic for Catherine. So there were a lot of scenes which were incredibly intense, but I was so lucky that I was working obviously alongside Supan, working alongside Max as well, who is just an incredibly easy to work with guy. Just love Max to pieces. Working with him is absolutely amazing. So I just always felt safe and like I could do it, and always so supported, which in the past that's not been the case sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So going off of that, as a budding actress yourself, do you have any dream Shakespeare roles you'd love to play?
Gosh, there are so many really interesting roles that I would love to play. I suppose top of the list for me would be Rosalind, Now As You Like It. That would really be the highlight for me. But actually, I quite like being thrown into roles that I wasn't quite expecting. That happened last year when I ended up playing Sir Andrew in Twelfth Night. Actually, it's the most fun I've had for quite a while.
No, I've found that before. I mean, recently, obviously, we just had Shakespeare in 48, which I was in as both Helena and Puck, which was a bit of a challenge. But oh my goodness, I loved both characters so much, and it's nice to have that contrast sometimes, to play around with more and kind of test your limits, really. So yeah, that definitely, I see that for you.
Yeah.
Great. So if you could say anything to other first years that might be listening today, maybe thinking of joining Shakespeare Society, what would you say?
I would definitely say to just come along and get involved. I mean, it can be so daunting trying something new, but everyone here is incredibly friendly. And I mean, you don't have to be a massive like Shakespeare know-it-all. It's super accessible to all levels of experience and interest. And there's just something for everyone, whether it's academic, performance, or social. Shakespeare Sock, we always know how to have an incredibly good time. So you will find something for yourself at Shakespeare Sock, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. No, I definitely echo that sentiment. I think, we're not, contrary to popular belief, we're not all massive Shakespeare experts, or some people come into Shakespeare Society not really liking Shakespeare, even just knowing the people and coming in through that way, and then suddenly you find you're actually really enjoying it, because I know a lot of people come from school where you've been taught it in this very regimented way. You've been forced to study Shakespeare as part of the curriculum, but I think the way we do it here, with having so many different opportunities like performance and like academic, even drinking events, doing drunk Shakespeare,
definitely.
I think it can really break down the barriers of like, you don't have to know everything. This is just a bit of fun for a lot of nerds to come together and have a good time. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there, and I hope we do get some more first years maybe coming in refreshers in January, which will be very exciting.
Absolutely.
So also, I know that you set up the Shakespeare Society at your previous university, and I was just wondering what that experience was like, and how does our society differ from the society that you set up, or was there anything that you kind of thought was interesting about how we do stuff here?
Gosh, it's almost a complete dichotomy. Setting up the Shakespeare Society at the New College of the Humanities was an incredibly hard process, and it took a lot of passion, drive, and determination. And we had quite an unsupportive student union, and I was constantly told I'm being too ambitious, and they were incredibly hostile to me, but we still made it work.
Yeah.
Despite COVID, we put on Hamlet, Twelfth Night, A Midsummer's Night Dream. and Richard III. So we still got a lot done, but
Yeah.
coming here was just a complete opposite experience, because I mean, the very first night I got here, I went to the pub with you guys, and one of the first questions was, so you're auditioning for Taming? And I went,
Yeah.
what? There's auditions
Yeah.
already. After being told at my last uni, like, oh, we won't put on a show. There's no way uni students have the time or the effort to put on a full show. No, just, and constantly being told everything that I was doing was so ambitious and just completely unrealistic. It was nice to see that my own visions were kind of realized somewhere else, and to get involved in a more like natural way. And just being part of an established and organized committee who run a society that's already made a name for itself, it's just so much more, well, not more fulfilling, but it's like on par, because you get to see from the bottom up how things work, instead of trying to scramble together and going, oh, I'm now in a position of power which I don't know what I'm doing with. So yeah, it's just lovely to see how everything's working and seeing everyone's roles.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting. I can't imagine what it was like to kind of start from scratch, be on your own trying to figure that out, because I'm very grateful to have had 2 years on committee before being president. So yeah, that was very ambitious of you, but my gosh, you know, we're very lucky to have you on committee as someone who has already tried to do this elsewhere. But yeah, I wondered if there was anything that you would like to see us doing in the future, as someone who kind of had this idea of what a Shakespeare Society might be.
Oh gosh, I suppose the way that I was trying to run my society is very similar to how you actually do run your society.
Amazing.
So, I mean, coming here is a bit of a dream come true, because I can just step into this world that I kind of envisioned.
That's great. I'm very glad to hear that. So yeah, and then going on to like a broader Royal Holloway sense, you, like me, are an English and drama student. And I was wondering what drew you to Holloway and this particular course that you and I both take.
Well, yeah, I suppose my trip to uni has been a bit of a long journey. So I remember coming to Royal Holloway for the first time when I was 16. I'm now 21.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I was 16, I came to Royal Holloway and I sort of fell in love with the campus. I remember stepping into the CCT for the first time and just watching students work. And you could just clearly see the level of care and love for the subject, especially drama. I just knew that it was a place that I felt very drawn to. And then when I got to 18 and then UCAS deadlines started happening, I was supposedly going to be auditioning for all these drama schools, and then I had quite severe health issues, so I had to like completely put everything on hold. Did a year's costume design, somehow led me to English and art history at my previous uni. And working in my Shakespeare Society last year, I had one of my friends who goes to Royal Holloway speak to me. We were walking around the Tate Britain, and she's like, why don't you do drama? And it kind of just dawned on me that I was like, this is the one thing that I've been utterly in love with from the moment I can remember, like walking and talking. I was like, if I don't pursue this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And at that point, I kind of felt ready in my own like medical self, being sort of ready to kind of take that leap and that gamble, because kind of learning to manage chronic illness with drama is quite uncertain, and drama is a very like dedicated subject, so you have to be able to commit yourself to a lot of time, which sometimes being chronically ill you can't afford to do. But I've had like 3 years to really learn my own body and my limits and how to manage everything. So yeah, the mix of academic with the English side of it. I mean, I came out of English last year with 3 firsts in all my modules, so it kind of felt, yeah, thank you, It kind of felt like a natural progression to keep going with the English. And I mean, I love Shakespeare so much. It's kind of my main interest. So doing English and drama just makes so much sense with the amount of modules they offer from both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And I know in your second year you'll have this compulsory module called Shakespeare from Page to Stage, which I did last year and very much enjoyed. And you will be actually, I'm pretty sure you do look at The Taming of the Shrew there, so that'll be interesting to come from being in it to then studying it. But yeah, that's, I mean, your story, this sounds really like a TED talk, but your story is so inspirational.
Thank you.
And yeah, you should be really proud of yourself, because as you said, like drama is something where, you know, it does require that extra kind of level of commitment. Like you don't come out of a rehearsal and switch off, you know, it's not, you don't you do your hours then you're done. It's not that kind of subject, but you're doing so well. And I'm sure you'll do extremely well in your course as well. And the fact you were saying about your kind of choice to pursue drama is really interesting, because I actually had the same kind of thing earlier this year, not with obviously going to university. I already did kind of half and half, but I was thinking about what to pursue after university, and like you, I was kind of like, why shouldn't I pursue drama when it's something that I'm so passionate about? And there was you know, there's always that bit in your head that's like questioning why you should do something artistic, you know, because it's a lot of work. But you know what, power to us, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do well in it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's so interesting. You've such an interesting journey here. But to round it off to a more kind of simple question, what is your favorite Shakespeare play? I have to ask.
Now you phrase this as simple, but I beg to differ. I would say probably top of the list would be As You Like It, but I've kind of spoken about that already. So it's kind of a joint freeway tie between Merry Wives, as I have done so much research into Hamlet, it just would be wrong if it wasn't on the list. But I suppose maybe Taming might be climbing up the list a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Well, that's great. It's good to hear that you have a solid few, because you're going to be studying a lot of them. But anyway,
good.
so
I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, as you should. You're going to be drowned in Shakespeare. I mean, I know for me, I've got my Shakespeare module this year. I'm also doing a lot of Shakespeare extracurricularly. So we're just gonna, you know, hope and pray that our love for Shakespeare never dies. So yeah, so that brings us on to our news section, which is actually a very sad section this week. As we have all seen on the news recently, the iconic composer and lyricist Stephen Sondheim has sadly passed away. So did Sondheim mean a lot to you? And if so, what were your favourite Sondheim musicals?
Oh gosh, I mean, Sondheim is like the heart of musical theatre really at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, even I don't have a musical bone in my body, I can still appreciate how incredibly clever and skilled his music was. He really understood his craft and was an incredibly talented man. So it's obviously a very, very sad loss to the entire theatre world. West Side Story and Company also, they're just so good, so good, unbelievably good. Yeah, so I think it's time to celebrate his life and the art he's left behind, truly.
Definitely. I was saying the other day, the only good thing I hope comes out of this is that there are a lot of revivals, because I was hoping that there'll be a surge of revivals around London, and I will be going to all of them. For me, my absolute favourite musical is Assassins, which is actually one of his lesser known ones, about the assassins or attempted assassins of American presidents. And my goodness, listening to the music and hearing him analyze his own music and why he made certain decisions, you know, thought went into every second of his music, and my god, what an icon. I'm truly very saddened by this loss, but we just have to thank him for all the work that he had done in his time, because my goodness, did he do a lot for the modern day musical in general and just the theatre world. So yeah, a bit of a sad news story for this week, but I thought it was definitely worth touching on. But yeah, going to something perhaps, I was going to say more light-hearted, but it's also a tragedy. So I'm not convinced about my own statement there. So, but recently I saw that you saw the production of Macbeth at the Almeida Theatre. And I just wanted to ask you about this production, because I didn't get the chance to see it, and I was super jealous that you did. So I want to hear all about it.
Oh gosh, I mean, to start off, I'm in your boat with the frustration of not being able to see it. I mean, they did 3 ticket releases, and the first 2 I was unsuccessful, and my ticket I got for literally closing night. That's kind of how close I was to missing it. So I'm incredibly grateful and feel incredibly lucky that I did get to catch it, because I've been a bit of a Yale Farber mega fan.
Yeah.
I could say. For quite a while. I think she's an absolutely stunning director. So as soon as I found out she was directing Macbeth in London, I was like, oh, I need to go and see it immediately. Yeah, I've been following her since, well, she directed Hamlet in Dublin in 2017, and there was a New York revival in 2020, and it starred Ruth Negga as Hamlet. And it was around the same time in my costume course where I was studying Hamlet intensively. I mean, I did a 5-month project, and within 2 months of that 5-month project, I researched and watched about 20 versions of Hamlet.
Wow.
And yeah, one of her Hamlet is one that I missed because it wasn't available, because it wasn't recorded. So I only went off like pictures, but I just knew her like creative direction and like aesthetic and style. It's just so beautifully dark and raw, and it's just absolutely up my street. So the fact that I got to see Macbeth was absolutely incredible. I mean, I would say she's absolutely a theatrical genius. It was just so intricately put together. Like Sondheim, everything was considerate, clever, effective, and just well crafted. So it was kind of this dynamically raw, post-apocalyptic production, and it was underscored by Vera Lynn's "We'll Meet Again," as well as this like really haunting cello. They had a cellist, Aoife Burke, who just played in the background of every scene. She was just sat there playing, and she even interacted with the characters, and she'd move about. And it was just so simplistic, this soundscape that they created, but it just was so effective. And I mean, the design elements were just incredible. They had this sort of clear paneling which doubled as like a mirror, and then they flooded the stage, completely flooded the stage, and it had this like reflective quality which kind of made the entire performance like almost meditative, and it's just wonderful. And I mean, the cast were insane. The cast was so good.
I was gonna ask how was Saoirse Ronan was in it, and James McArdle, how were they?
Yeah, I mean, James McArdle's like Macbeth. I mean, he's got this incredibly strong Scottish accent, and he's just exactly, when you think of Macbeth, James McArdle is just definitely the kind of person that comes to mind. But Saoirse, on the other hand, was such an interesting choice for Lady Macbeth. She kind of brought this really soft and gentle side to the character, which was really bizarre at first. I wasn't quite sure how I felt. but she still brought this like almost sinister streak, but it was so like faint to begin with. It was like she had this really quiet power, which was just incredibly stunning as she sort of like gained power within the play. But yeah, by the end, her like madness, and then her death, she's just completely engulfed by water in this flooding stage, and you can see her reflection in this like mirrored paneling, and you can see it on the floor, and she just lays there for like 10 minutes just soaking in this water. And there's a point where James McArdle like holds her up and like carries her off before like the like main climax of the ending happens, and he's just holding this absolutely sopping wet Saoirse Ronan.
Oh my gosh.
And she's just, oh, it was just an absolutely stunning image. But actually I would say for me, the personal like highlight, the performance that I thought was the most stunning, was Akia Henry's Lady Macduff. Oh my gosh, she was insane. Not in like a oh I'm crazy way. There's this juxtaposition for Lady Macduff of this warmth and tenderness as like she had her two sons, and she's just this perfect mother figure, and that juxtaposed with the most genuine anguish. I have never seen something so heartbreaking on stage than when Lady Macduff's children are killed in front of her and she was unable to protect them because she was obviously fighting for her own life. The screams that Akia Henry produced were just almost like haunting. I mean, that went nearly straight into the interval, and I just sat there and I went, oh my God, that was what I've just seen is harrowing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that sounds like an amazing production, and I hope they re-release some like live streams or something. Because that sounds like, I mean, not only does it sound amazing, but it sounds so unlike other productions. So that's a very like amazing experience to have seen that in person. So thank you for giving us a quick rundown on that production. I wish I could have seen it, but let's hope they do some kind of revival at some point.
Yeah, well, the whole thing with COVID has meant that, I mean, they live streamed it out, I mean, for I think 3 nights. So it means they definitely have recordings of it somewhere.
There's footage. They've just got to let me have it.
Fingers crossed they will release it, or do like you know how National Theatre go into cinemas and then something like that. That'd be good.
I imagine they will. I mean, it's Saoirse Ronan. Everyone's gonna want to see it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So let's hope they do that, and then I can see it. But yeah, so that's all we have time for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, Lynn.
Amazing. Thank you for having me, Meadow, and thank you all for listening.
So thank you everyone for tuning into this week's episode of Bard Times. I've been your host, Meadow Capon, and in the words of the Bard himself, it is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. Take care, everyone.